Welcome to the Christopher Peter Review, your source for common sense commentary on salient current events. In this podcast episode, we are going to discuss value. I personally believe there is a critical importance to understanding the value of people, things, and ideas. Do we know why we are around the people we associate with, choose to love and care for? Do we know why we hold inanimate objects in high regard, or is it time to pass some of them along to the next person? Do we truly understand why we hold on to ideas and principles? And are these ideas helpful to us as individuals and society as a whole? And most importantly, do we truly express the ideas and principles consistently? Let us begin this episode of the Christopher Peter Review. I provide an economic perspective on industries, companies, and their brands, but I do not give financial advice. New investors or people looking to improve their portfolios should reach out to licensed financial advisors. I do encourage people to take up investing because you can grow your money without the need to work harder. The goal is to work smarter, not necessarily harder, even though smart work requires hard effort. Back to investing. The goal for investors is to put funds into an investment asset that grows your money safely. There is risk in investing and market volatility, which is why you need to have knowledge or use a personalized service to understand the risk levels and strategies out there to avoid or mitigate these risks. One thing I like to do is listen to seasoned investors, economists, and corporate leaders because it gives me some insight on what the overall market is thinking, potential risks and opportunities that exist, and what timeframes are the people who do this as their primary source of income see. Also, this gives insight on how to mitigate risks and benefit responsibly from risks. Generally, I hear many of these great minds discuss the need to be disciplined, have a long-term view on investments, and have realistic goals and expectations. And depending on the strategy or fund they are leading, I hear many warn against investing in fads or investments that appear fleeting upfront. For instance, I tend to be more conservative of an investor, focused on identifying solid growth potential, not investing in the potential for growth, but in a company that is already generating positive revenue and profit performance with fundamentals that lead to a realistic prospect that the pattern will continue. I know some people who want to be in on more innovative investment tools, are more of the first adopter approach to investments, like early crypto enthusiasts. In fairness, crypto has been around for quite some time and is not as new as it once was. It has gained more of a following over time despite the warnings and obvious risks associated with crypto markets. Many of the vocal proponents of crypto try to apply traditional dogma for investing to normalize investing in this space. From what I understand, there is good potential to make quick gains, but also lose money fast as well. And there is still great uncertainty with providers as two of the biggest firms in the world have crashed with their leaders in prison. My skepticism of the market has always been that there really is no underlying value that you are investing in. Rather, that you are investing in an idea that appears to be highly or easily manipulated. The results are fleeting and not really sustainable. The obvious retort would be that any investing can be fleeting if improperly timed trades or changes of positions lead you to lose unrealized gains. But assets like stock, real estate, and bonds to some degree all generally appreciate in value over time, leading to some level of gains even if not the maximum possible. To better frame my position, let me use some recent stocks that have bolstered many financial portfolios recently. Companies like Nvidia, Google, Apple, or Microsoft that have been propping up the financial markets for the past year or so. Especially Nvidia. This is a tech company that is providing the preferred chip used heavily in computing for the vastly growing artificial intelligence industry. While many people are waiting for the commercialization of artificial intelligence, the investment opportunities in the moment are with the producers of the equipment and services that will make the potential of artificial intelligence a reality. The chip producers and computing device makers will see growth in sales, reduction in inventory, and skyrocketing demand as tech continues to embrace the potential available with AI. Therefore, the real and present value is there, as investing in Nvidia will more likely than not continue to provide capital gains, greater dividend performance, and predictability. It had a strong first quarter where many companies saw reductions compared to the last. Despite being considered to be weakly positioned for the future artificial intelligence market, Apple is still holding its own in the market, benefiting from weaker performances of its competitors. The value for Apple is that it is and will be for some time a leading producer of personal computers and smartphones with premium positions in those markets. It may have to rely on other software companies to provide AI solutions, but it will still be strong in the hardware. Companies like Microsoft and Google are leaders in the software space of the tech market, where Microsoft is once again the top company in the world right now. Google is a consistent market leader in search, mapping, email, and holds favorable positions in other spaces as well. Microsoft is the leading operating system and the lifeline for professional computing. It has gained a strong position in the services side for artificial intelligence with its partnership with OpenAI, which Google Gemini will compete with. There is identifiable value that is currently generated by these companies, and there are visible paths for continued success for these companies in the future, opportunities for growth, avenues for greater efficiency to bring better returns in their mature markets, so the risks associated with these stocks may be somewhat lower even though still present. For crypto, well, still is too much uncertainty and the inability for someone to really provide an answer to the question of whether the whole crypto market is completely susceptible to one bad actor or bad organization. It seems like it is. People may like a show about nothing, but I am not really sold on investing directly in a market based on little to nothing. I do not see the value in it. Welcome to our conversation portion of the podcast, where we will bring in Jennifer to advance our discussion of values away from the markets to social and political. In a similar manner, Americans can invest in value non-monetarily through casting votes that align with values that matter to themselves, their households, and their communities. We invest in our society through our votes, political donations, service, volunteerism, and other methods. From a political or social standpoint, value is important to our society and economy. The driving ideals and principles define who we are as a society and where our future can get to if we have the right framework and guiding vision. Like in financial markets, there are dogmas and ideologies that are fleeting, fads, or outdated to the current events. So it is important that we know what our values are as an American society. What do we want? How do we want to get that? And why do we think it is important? Regardless of ideological or political leanings, I think people want to live in a safe society that protects themselves and their property, a society that fosters an economy that provides opportunity for all, one that affords equal opportunity to earn the life and success of your dreams, a society that affords freedom, self-determination, and most importantly, security. Now, let us discuss the value channels more in depth.
Values are important to any society. They guide how we operate by shaping our views, attitudes, and behaviors. So, if we want a better society by any metric, we have to have a set of values that will help shape that desired future. First, let us begin with our economic values. The economy drives everything in our society because it provides the wealth needed to pay the bills for every government action, personal choice, and everything in between. We need to understand what kind of economy we want in the United States, and how do we get there? What obstacles, challenges, and mental barriers are there that we as a society need to overcome?
Everything in society comes down to the health and productivity of the economy. The economy provides the funds to compensate workers for their contributions to organizations, the income for workers to pay for the goods and services needed for their households. The incomes for both workers and organizations are taxed by the federal, state, and local governments, completing the basic example. The health of the economy is essentially to provide quality education programs to prepare the next generation of workers, funds to provide adequate defense for our society and protection of our communities. The real question is, what is the best way to maintain an economic system and how to sustain it over time? The best economies are one that align with a nation's values. For a nation that values freedom, personal choice, and self-governance, free market capitalism aligns perfectly to those values. For nations that do not place a great amount of value on the individual person, or value their individual contributions, then a socialist, more centralized economy may appear better suited. But there are some flaws that are conveniently ignored by its proponents. The goal of an economy to meet the needs of society, both the current and future needs. Therefore, an economy must grow, innovate, and evolve as society changes. The needs of one generation will not be the same as the next. For instance, we obsess about what things cost our grandparents' generation, our parents' generation, and our generation. But the real cost and actual dollars expended are greatly different. The cost of college is much greater today and takes up a significant percentage of one's income, in a generation where incomes are higher and buying power generally stronger overall. Therefore, the best economic systems are ones that offer the greatest promise of sustainable growth. Growth where the economy can provide better tomorrows than today's, factoring in that there will be some days that are not so bright and positive. Any economy needs to provide its people with the ability to support their households. Ideally, an economy would afford the people to support their households in the manner of their choosing. The economy should afford the ability for the people to decide what is produced, how it gets produced, and how much. History has consistently shown us that there are certain systems that are sustainable, and ones that are prone to social violence, political turmoil, and destabilization. In my episode, Economic Systems, I make the case of why free market capitalism is the best economic system despite any flaws that it may have. Free market capitalism provides each one of us with the opportunity to meet social needs and uplift their situation through entrepreneurship, investment, or innovation. Many people have changed their trajectory in life by seeing a need and creating the solution to fill that need, uplifting not only themselves but their community, region, and industry. Our market economy has allowed individuals to change how we work, the manner how goods and services are delivered, style of learning, and the standard method of transportation. These disruptions were not the work of a bureaucrat or a part of a political agenda. Rather, an individual or group brings an idea to life. Our core value of freedom that we will discuss in a moment expands to the economic realm. Economic freedom embodies the people to be the economic engine for our society. That is why more innovation happens in America than anywhere else in the world. The counter-argument some people make is based on a flawed dogma that does not consider individual effort, ingenuity, and perseverance. Most people see equal opportunity as the environment of everyone having an equitable and fair chance of achieving their version of success. There are those who are countering that rational view in favor of saying that equal opportunity is only present when there are equal outcomes, which is the flawed thinking that held back societies like the Soviet Union and many South American nations. I counter that flawed ideology with the obvious argument that rewarding those who create value and achieve is more equitable and fair, because it connects benefit with effort, incentivizing people to contribute to society rather than grift. Also, society as a whole benefits beyond just that individual and more. People have opportunities when innovation and ambition is rewarded. The idea that everyone is entitled to the same regardless of contribution might sound nice, but it does not fairly reward those who expand the limits of human achievement. In fact, those economic systems reward those who devise ways to reduce their contributions to expand the value of their take. A society does not need a regressive economic system, nor does it need a centralized economic planner. A society needs to harness the energy and ingenuity of its people, allowing them to create the solutions to our needs and benefit from doing so. There are some who worry or obsess about the idea of income inequality, as if they are directly impacted by people being out there who make billions more than them. The political idea behind their concerns is that the wealthy have more power and influence in society. The wealthy and those who are more affable to develop better connections without wealth already have more power and influence. As long as you still have the ability to develop and benefit from your own billion-dollar idea, then there is no real concern. Income mobility is a much greater concern than income inequality. Free market capitalism at its purest form can help with income mobility and actually reduce income inequality, as excessive profits can be weaned down with increases in competition, choice, and innovation. Having more economic activity that disrupts industries can help in these areas. In a nation that values self-governance, free market capitalism allows the people to craft solutions that are better fits to our needs than what may be already on the market, or the best the public option can provide. Rather than wait for permission, people can make things happen and then society can adjust. Consider how public transportation is completely different now that ride-sharing is a key player in the market. Although the government initially took the side of union money, eventually the will of the people became the norm and regulation, and the market changed. Instead of trying to convince a bureaucrat that change is good, people had the opportunity to disrupt a market that was costly and in need of a refresh. As a political economist, I believe the most effective economic system is one where problems can be addressed from multiple directions. Some may be solved through public policy. Most will be solved by the actions of the people. The combination can be a really good thing.
Freedom. An important value to our society is freedom. The United States of America was founded on the idea of freedom. Our Constitution prescribes it, affording Americans the freedom of speech, assembly, to practice the religion of their choice, to serve society as an independent press, and to petition our government. A free society is the centerpiece of our national dogma, regardless of whether one is a Republican or Democrat, conservative, liberal, or moderate. We all value freedom and wish it not to be restricted. But our social view of freedoms have evolved greatly from the mental framework our founders had, and what many in our society want to use it. How can society best afford people the freedom of self-governance and determination, while protecting the overall interests of all?
The mental framework of all our values will evolve over time, as each generation will take the individual concept and apply it to fit the broadest needs, or look at how it is being used and maybe rein it back a bit. Freedom in general is the ability to make the choices in life that afford you the ability to choose your own path. During our founding, people were not free to make the personal, social, or economic choices that would define their preferred lifestyle. Even after we gained our independence, there still are some checks on our freedom in this regard. For instance, you and I should have the ability to pick our own careers, choose what religion to practice or not to practice, where to live, what foods to eat, what to say. We all have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our definition of happiness, not the societally approved version. Some challenges in this area occur because we do not always want to admit that one person's freedom cannot preclude another from exercising that same freedom, or that our freedom is our own responsibility to bear. You commonly see people want to exercise their freedom of speech and have some expectation that they will be shielded from the recourse that happens when others exercise their freedom as well. Or people want to exercise their freedom but expect others to make it happen for them. There are challenges when exercising a freedom is deemed dangerous to society. Sometimes people want the freedom to do things that are personally harmful or socially harmful, and policymakers need to make decisions to limit the costs imposed on others by another's choice. I think from a policy viewpoint of freedom is that society should never infringe on one's freedom, as long as the practice does not infringe or impede another's right to the same freedom, or requires others to bear any burden, and that infringement and cost should be realistic, not fabricated or projected. There are many areas in our society where we could lower the temperature of our arguments and discourse if we just accept that people have the freedom to live a life of their choosing, but also that others do not have a responsibility to ally or champion that choice, just a responsibility to avoid purposeful harm. Too many times people look at the actions of others and, out of anger, they take positions against that action. As long as that choice or action does not preclude your freedom in that space, then you really should not care. Placing responsibility on a person to demonstrate support to avoid some social label makes it a problem where they then have a stake to take a valid position against that behavior or freedom. The concept and practice of freedom is challenging in many areas, and it always will be as societal dynamics change.
Safety and security is a critical societal value that is challenging in the current environment. Too many communities in our society are not safe for living, working, visiting, or enjoying the benefits of the particular environment. Many politicians had shirked their responsibility to provide for the safety and general welfare of society by not enforcing laws consistently and even going to great lengths to manipulate how the public views the conditions of their communities.
I think this is a straightforward ideal. The federal, state, and local government has the responsibility to enforce the laws of our society in a consistent, fair, and equal manner. I think it is justified to make sure that those enforcing the laws are doing so consistently and with equal treatment, holding them accountable when they go beyond. On a broader scope, I think society has a responsibility to protect our communities from dangers or threats that exist outside our borders. Protect Americans from dangers generated by bad actors or leaders abroad. Importing known troublemakers escaping consequence in their home nations is not good public policy. Turning a blind eye to threats is an even worse public policy. I think we need to have a realistic perspective on the idea of safety and security. Crime rates will vary and not be proportional based on demographics. Some groups commit more of certain crimes compared to other groups. I believe that if a crime is committed, then it should be prosecuted in a manner consistent, not adjusting to the race or notoriety of the person. Justice is supposed to be blind to the demographics and fame of the person accused. The government has a primary responsibility to protect society from real and present threats, both domestic ones and ones coming from abroad.
America is a melting pot society, and we overall value our cultural diversity. No other nation has the diversity America has with the large-scale population. At times, there will be competing interests and natural conflicts, especially seen when there are conflicts abroad between different groups' home nations. Diversity is an important value and strength of our society, economy, and way of life. But our obsession over identity politics and tribalism is not helpful and actually harmful towards all in society. How can we improve with this value?
Diversity is important in our society. I think we need to have a rational discussion on our race relations, and reduce the hysteria and fabricated frameworks that people use to maintain a narrative of discrimination when the facts, evidence, and data prove otherwise. There is hate in America, and there is hate everywhere in the world. That is a reality of life. One thing I cannot stand is the false perception that hate is exclusive to America, because that is purposefully ignorant of reality, especially when a person references a completely homogeneous nation. Once that nation has too many visitors that look differently, there will be the same issues we face here. The reality is that hate and discrimination is everywhere and multidirectional. Yes, many minority groups demonstrate the same hate they decry with other groups. It just does not fit the preferred narrative that some want to maintain. But the hate is not at the astronomically high level that some make it out to be. A major problem in our society beyond the scope of diversity is that people believe narratives rather than questioning them. Ideally, one would question all narratives, even the narratives that you agree with. I hear too many people parrot ideas that are not born from fact but by hysteria, and these individuals shrink when you ask them the simple question of why. We need to realize not every incident involving two different races is one of discrimination, and that we should not exclusively seek association with people who look, speak, eat, pray, or think like us, and project false assumptions about others. We are all more than our skin color, gender, biological or imaginary, or any other demographic. I do think we can make progress in embracing diversity, but we cannot be foolish to think that there will never be incidents or misperceptions, especially when you have people who live to call everything racist, sexist, or any other ist.
Finally, America is a representative democracy, where we elect representatives to execute the wishes of their constituency. For those who do not know, a pure democracy would be a system of governance where everything is put up for a vote. Instead, we elect overpaid representatives to enact laws and enforce those laws. Do we still value democracy, and are the claims about the risks about the state of our democracy real?
I believe that all Americans value democracy, and many want to see more democracy in their respective communities, rather than the political machines that continue to elect people from the same political parties. The narrative of our democracy being under threat is an effective scare tactic. People voicing their opinions or displeasure with election results, social issues, or public policies may make you uncomfortable or disagree with their actions. But that is democracy. The uncomfortable side of democracy when people voice their displeasure, which is real. We do not want our society to split at the seams, but people can vent their frustrations and emotions. I did not like the images from neither the described Summer of Love events nor the events on January 6th, but that is the uncomfortable sides of democracy, and the consequences of our hysteria-driven political culture that fuels irrationality. I know people will find that troubling, but the reality is that people do not like when their candidate or preferred political party is defeated. Both Republicans and Democrats have shown poor taste and choice in this regard when their preferred candidate is defeated. The more troubling aspect with our democracy is the silencing of political speech, coordination of messaging and what is allowed to be heard, and the overt bias of our news media. I do agree that it can be challenging when there is so much information out there, and it is not clear what is true, what is completely fake, and what is just not liked by one side or the other. But I think we cannot have so little faith in our public that they will not be able to decipher what to believe. I think many of the people making the claims that our democracy is at risk are generally people who do not truly believe in democracy. Many seem to be more sympathetic to the Soviet-style politics than true American politics. Political projection is all too common nowadays, where a political party projects a position on their opponent to cover actions they are taking on a daily basis. The censorship, silencing of speech, and overt actions to manipulate primaries and the ballot is far more troubling than people complaining about outcomes. A big thank you to all of you in the audience. Your viewership is appreciated and valued. I firmly believe that Americans should support candidates that protect our economic interests and economic freedoms, fostering policies that grow opportunities for all now and in the future. Seek candidates that protect freedoms, our ability to self-determine, and decide what our future should be. We need leaders that protect our communities, our society, and our allies. We need to protect our diversity, cultural, intellectual, and economic. We need leaders who can protect our voice and actually do the work that the people need and the moment calls for. Please further The Christopher Peter Review on social media, and continue to visit www.crcreview.com for new episodes. Thank you once again. Until next time.